Welcome to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa with my co-host Carl Banks on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's when we're recording this bad boy, and we got a good show lined up for you. We're going to dive into the whole Jason Garrett situation, where this team goes from here, Daniel Jones. And Carl, I know we like to talk some food, and I know you're very passionate about it. I want to talk about something that we were turned on to like in the last couple of months, and it might be the best sushi that I've ever had in my life. So I'll explain a little bit later in the show.
All right.
How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. I am took a minute to kind of digest the move at the Giants. I was, after the game, you and I and our producer, John Schmelk, and Howard Cross were just kind of talking. And I said after the game, just something didn't feel right about the way the Giants played, especially offensively, just coming off of the Oakland win and then coming off a bye. It just didn't seem like a focused offense, and I just felt something wasn't right. And after the game, I said I wouldn't be surprised if there's a change coming.
You said that, I want to give you full credit for this, because you said that to me in the booth before we even went downstairs to do our TV show post-game hit, and before Judge had even talked to the media, which led to everybody thinking that, wow, it sounds like he might be making a change. You said it in the booth as soon as the game ended. You're like, something's going to change here.
Yeah, it didn't have the right feel. And so before anybody start the whole pile-on process, let me be clear about a few things. Jason Garrett's a good man. He's a smart man. Didn't work out. The production of this business requires you to have some level of effectiveness. So that's the business end of it. I know a lot of people made it personal and they attacked him. That's not what this is about. It's about the offense not moving in the direction that it needed to, point blank, no matter who was the coach. But that just felt, Bob, like, okay, we're going to send you guys home over the Christmas break, but make sure you study because we have a test the day you get back. And it felt like that plan was put together the night, and this is not questioning the integrity. I'm just making an analogy. It felt like the plan was put together the night before the test.
Right.
It just didn't feel right. Like, the whole night, it just felt like a bunch of grab bag plays. No consistent here. You couldn't block for your quarterback, but you couldn't run, but yet you can throw, a gimmick in the end zone, which was a great design. The Tony pass was a wonderful pass. It should have been called as an interception, but there was nothing about Tampa, and they are in a phenomenal defense that destroyed every opportunity. And it felt like I was watching the 86 Bears where you couldn't snap the ball without something bad going on, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't, but that's not their.
They're not that good.
They didn't have that personnel. Their best player wasn't even on the field. Their best interior lineman. And it just seemed like there was not a plan in place. And it was just a grab bag. Let me see if I could call this. If I see this, I see that. And I want to take you somewhere because this is something that Joe Judge, as a young coach, has got to get a hold of as well. Now, the results are what they are with this offense. And I don't think there has been enough appreciable growth under Garrett to match what they have. And, people say, well, the Giants don't have talent. They don't have an offensive line. Here's what they don't have. They don't have anything that maximizes the talent that they do put on the field. I don't think, well, let me just say this. The offensive rankings, the basement rankings of the Giants offense does not match the talent on the roster. Whatever you think the talent is on this team, their offensive ranking categorically is not, it's not beneath the ranking. They have better talent than what they're ranked.
They should not be dead last in the NFL in red zone offense. There's a lot of other teams that have offensive line issues. There's a lot of other teams that
25 of them.
I look at the Patriots and hey, Max, what's up?
Hello, Max.
Say hi.
Hello, Max.
All right, I'll see you, bud. Bye. I'll see
you later, Max.
Sure, thanks. That's the beauty of the podcast in the house.
Yes.
I lost my train of thought there. I'll give you the Patriots as an example. They got a rookie quarterback who's being developed. Now, if you were doing a talent evaluation draft of people, you might take Jonnu Smith over any of the Giants tight ends. Okay, but it's not like a slam dunk when Ingram is used properly and Kyle Rudolph. But I'll give you Jonnu Smith for the Patriots. You taking any of the Patriots wide receivers over any of the Giants frontline wide receivers? Now they have a nice collection of running backs and they know how to utilize their stable. But I think you would take Saquon Barkley over their top dog any day. Why are they effective offensively? Why are they scoring points? Why are they efficient in the red zone? Why is the quarterback growing? And Daniel Jones looked worse than he did his rookie season. There's something fundamentally flawed in what they're doing, Carl, because you're 1,000% right. Should they be the number one offense in the NFL? Okay, no, their offensive line's not good enough, but they should be scoring more. Look at his numbers, Carl. So Mike Clay put this out yesterday. Since the start of last season, the Bucs lead the NFL with 95 touchdowns scored. Packers have 93, Titans 89, Bills 89, Saints 89. Go through all 32 teams. You know who DFL is? And that's dead bleeping last? The New York Giants with 42. The Jets have 46. The Jaguars have 52. The Bears have 54. The Broncos have 55. The Texans have 59. The Lions have 61. The Giants are dead last in touchdowns since the start of last season. Dead last on a team that has Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard and now Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney. Yeah, they didn't have those guys last year. But my point is,
their talent is better than their ranking. And when you have that and you haven't figured out how to utilize those guys, then something has to change. Now, here's where Joe Judge has to have some responsibility in this. He's a young coach, but if Joe and I ever had a moment and had a beer together, I would share this story, but because we don't have a beer together, I'm going to share it on air. And he sat in meetings with Bill Belichick.
Great one, yes.
I've sat in meetings, staff meetings with Bill Belichick. I've sat in staff meetings with Bill Parcells.
Yep.
And here's the one thing that I know Bill Belichick got from Bill Parcells. And I'm going to wait till Max get out because I don't want to use these words in front of Max.
Oh, you're going to use a little salty language?
I'm going to use the exact words.
But he can't hear you. He can't hear you because your audio is going through my headphones.
Well, people will look at this and say, how could you say that when the kids?
Okay. Yeah, by the way, the Giants are dead last in red zone offense, 12 touchdowns in 27 trips, 44%. Washington is 31st, Detroit 30th, Denver 29th. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
He's gone.
So I've had the honor of sitting in coaching staff meetings for 4 years with Parcells when he was with the Jets. And this is the one thing he said. He said it when we played, and I played for him with the Giants in front of his players, right? But he said it often to his assistant coaches. And this is something that Joe Judge has got to remind his coaches. And Bill Parcells would be notorious for saying, you fucking guys ain't gonna get me fired because you can't do your job. And he's basically saying, figure out how to get these players playing because I ain't losing my fucking job for you. And that is where Joe Judge is a young coach. And I know there are some sensitivities and he has to respect everybody. So whatever method he uses to convey that point,
He could say that in his coaches meeting, right?
I mean, if that's the way he communicates.
Well, I don't think he's short on salty language because
no. But here's the thing, Bob. They just can't be words.
Right.
And obviously, when you have a change at offensive coordinator, those aren't empty words, right? But here's the other part about that. When you have an organization that goes out and gets you two weapons for your red zone woes and your quarterback consistency in the red zone, Galladay and Rudolph. Count the games that they've been used or even targeted in the red zone. Now, Rudolph has one touchdown in the red zone and one catch. But for the amount of times that this team gets to the red zone, either comes up empty-handed or kicking field goals, and the fact that we are not talking about this is where Rudolph excels, this is where Kenny Galladay excels. It doesn't matter if the entire world knows that those guys are going to be targeted. That's what they do. Teams find a way.
I knew that Tom Brady was going to try to throw the ball to Mike Evans coming out of the left slot when they had 2nd and goal. I know that the Cowboys, when Amari Cooper's healthy, they're going to throw it I know they're going to throw it to Gronk. This is not, we knew that the Cowboys were throwing to Jason Witten. You're 1,000%. They're not even on the field, Carl, half the time.
Right.
I'm blown away how many times this year I've seen the Giants are in the red zone or they're in the low red zone or the high red zone, whatever you want to call it. But they're around the 10-yard line. And I see Galladay jogging off, Tony jogging off, extra tight ends. I'm like, hey, listen, man, your season is hanging on the brink. I mean, let's face it. For the Giants, the playoffs started 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They got to win a lot of games and they got to start pulling off some upsets. And Monday night was a great opportunity, not a great opportunity to win because they weren't really that competitive in the game in the second half. But going into the game was an opportunity to kind of shake the apple cart a little bit. How many more times I got to see Galladay come off the field? Your quarterback also has to, if he's not on the field, there's no opportunity for these guys to make these catches that we watched them make with the Lions and Rudolph with the Vikings for all these years. These high in the end zone,
but
back in the end zone, because they're not on the field.
And this is not the podcast to defend personnel moves, but when we hear so much about what the Giants personnel people are inept at, right? They give you players that will help you, then help them help you, right? Because Kenny Galladay is not a bum. Kyle Rudolph is not a bum. But when they're not on the field, and then you have people saying, well, the front office, they can't pick play. Well, the players they're picking that can actually help your team why do we sit and scratch our head as to when the world knows these guys are really good in certain areas of the field? And in the case of Galladay, he's really good in other areas beyond just the red zone because of his wingspan, and you don't even put him on the field. That is the part where, again, somebody has to ask the question, why aren't they on the field? And then the head coach has got to say, you know what? You're absolutely right. Why aren't they on the field? So I don't know if that's his blind spot for saying, okay, I'm going to respect the positions and give them some autonomy of my coordinators. No. At this point,
clock's ticking.
Because, yeah, but at this point, his position has to be, I'm not losing my fucking job because of what you guys are doing. Let's figure it out, because if you've got talent and you can't figure out how to cohesively put a plan together that will utilize that talent, then you're it's coaching malpractice. Like the fact that you're not even trying with guys that they paid money to bring in to help you. You can't do that. And let me just move this a little bit forward, Bob.
Before you move it a little further, with Thanksgiving coming up, I just want to remind everybody, Bet Online is your number one spot for all sports action for this Thanksgiving, and we've got a great welcome bonus for you. All you have to do is type in the code BELIEVE, BLEAV. Type in that code right now, and you get a 50% welcome bonus. All right, go ahead.
So just to move it slightly forward, right? We talk about the talent being better than the rankings and categorically. Let's just put it that way. Red zone, third down, all of these things, because you have players that you can do things with in different situations. So what the failure is, and this is not a pile-on of Jason Garrett, I'm going to call it an offensive failure with him as the coordinator. People are saying how bad the Giants are individually. It's a team sport. So offense is a collective effort. What teams do, they look at what they have available and what they can do well. And then you build a plan around your strengths. You don't go into games highlighting the weaknesses of what your team can't do. There are certain run schemes that this team does not do well. There are others, when you look at when the Giants are running the ball, just look at the type of runs they are. They are gap scheme runs. They are play action passes, a lot off of those gap scheme runs. Stretch runs are nothing. They get knocked around, right? There are certain pass protections they can't do. But how do you get to what you need in the passing game? By playing to the strengths of what you can do up front in terms of running the football and the actions off of that. And teams put packages together to build on what they have, not what they don't have, and not come up with a bunch of grab bag plays and say, well, we'll try this one, that didn't work. Let me try this one, that didn't work. Oh, I didn't hold up on that one, but it looked good. No, what you have to do is build packages around what's available to you. And we talked about that, and they talked about it when they went with that extra offensive lineman and they ran the ball and they did a lot of things. And they said, we worked around the available personnel. Well, working around the available personnel also means building a game plan week in and week out. Your personality is, here's what they do well. That's what teams should say. The Giants do this extremely well and then you got to be alert for X, Y, and Z. The fact that you got Galladay and Evan Ingram that don't even factor in on third and shorts, third and mediums, and you got a play that everybody's put online, and it rhymes with cluster duck.
Yeah.
Right? You got everybody in one area, and the only thing you're going to hit there is if you were throwing a grenade, you got everybody. You got 100%.
And you're probably going to throw an interception.
Yeah, but the thing is, how do you have that? Right? That's not the best use of your personnel. That's not even the best use of your talent. Now, I don't know if that's part user error and part coach in design, but at the end of the day, they ain't been coached right if they're all doing that.
Right. So, yeah, there's no way that Jason Garrett, who, has been a personal friend of mine since 2000. I worked together. I did telecasts with him when he was doing TV. So, I mean, I feel bad because he's a friend, but there's no way Jason Garrett drew up a play that said, okay, we're going to have 3 guys bump into each other 6 yards off the line. Okay. Like, I know everybody's highlighting that play, which means that somebody didn't do the right thing on the play. But to your bigger point, that can't happen in a game. It's got to be coached better during the week so that you don't have that happen in the game.
Exactly. And that again, yes, your offensive coordinator is your architect of your offense, but your head coach, Joe's in his 30s. Just don't be a talker. Hold your coaches accountable. That's what the great ones do. Now, I know there's different levels of this, and I can't tell Joe how he should do that, but I'm sure when Joe worked for Bill, because I've sat in meetings when Bill would challenge his assistant coaches.
Love you.
When Bill worked for Bill Parcells, there were a lot of F-bombs thrown on the field in front of his players. Now, that ain't Joe. If it ain't him, it ain't him. But he has got to be more than words. He's a smart guy. He's been trained right in this, but this is the next phase of leadership, right? Doing the uncomfortable, which was done with Garrett. Now, how are the rest of these guys going to respond? Hey, Freddie, what is going to be our personality?
If it's going to be Freddie.
Yeah, if it's going to be Freddie. Well, Freddie's already, listen, Freddie is still involved in the offense. We know that. Freddie Kitchens, folks. But it is, okay, next play caller, I need to know what our personality is. If we got 3 plays that we run well, then we're going to run them so well nobody can stop them. I think that's how football works, right? You run something until they stop it, or you run it until you get tired. So if you got 5 plays that Will Hernandez and Andrew Thomas and the rest of this crew can run, and they run it well, then make the other team stop it, because you got 5 variations of that play that you can run at minimum. But you got to get them in something that they can do well. And if you do that, you're doing your job as an offensive coordinator. Your job as a coordinator is not necessarily to outsmart the other team. It's to out-execute the other team. And when the opportunity comes to put one of your smart caps on and it hit a big one, you can do that. But what you have to do is find what you do best, and you got to run that. You got to run it till you get tired, run it until they can't. Like, that is the nature of football. It's not about how many fancy ones you can do. Look, it looked, again, Monday night felt as bad. It looked as bad, and it felt worse because it looked grab bag. It felt like it was like a grab bag of plays. And that's not how you establish anything in an offense that has many weaknesses. You got to play to your strengths. I don't think they did that at all.
Carl, I got a couple things. I want to get into my boy right here, DJ.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into DJ, I got the one thing I don't understand in all this is why now? I know. Look, the offense has been, I know they were coming off a win after the bye, before the bye and everything. You got a short week. You got to play Philadelphia. To me, they probably should have made a move earlier. And they certainly have put themselves in a tough spot now on this short week. But I'm worried about my man right here. I'm worried about my man DJ, because I believe that Daniel Jones could be a good quarterback in the NFL. I don't think I'm blinded by it. I think he can be a good quarterback in the National Football League. I certainly saw enough really good things out of him just in his rookie season to get me excited and encouraged. But here's why I'm worried about him now, Carl, because he's now going to have his third offensive coordinator in his third year in the league. Okay, he had, under Pat Shurmur, then Jason Garrett, who Daniel Jones was very close with Jason Garrett, and now whoever is going to be the new play caller. And now there's 7 games to go in the season. And I was hoping that this team would be competitive this year, show growth, and more importantly, firm up the quarterback moving forward. So this is not something we have to worry about. And I can't get a read on Daniel Jones. I mean, the one interception he threw the other night, that's inexcusable when he got pressure and he just threw it over the middle and threw it to McClendon. There's no way to excuse that in any way, shape, or form. But the organization has really put themselves in a bind, because by Judge not making this move earlier or making this move whenever, you're losing games. He's getting battered. And the O-line still can't figure out how to block a twist. Okay. So it's the other thing, right? The right guard was a high second round pick. How many offensive line coaches has he had? He's had a bunch. Okay. It still looks the same. So at some point you got to say, this is what it is. But I'm worried about I'm worried about us not getting a good feel for Daniel Jones by the end of this season.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but he is as much of, let's just say, worst case scenario, he's an average quarterback who can make above average plays. Let's say worst case scenario, just based on what we've seen, right? What's your alternative is number one question. So if you're a front office person and you're looking at this team, I'm not so much worried about the voices in his ear, meaning who's calling the plays and what system he's learning. Number one, the transition this year is not going to be that big of a shock to the system because of the consistency of Freddie Kitchens being in the room. So there will be some kind of familiarity with something. Okay, and again, we don't know if Coach Kitchens is calling the plays or not, but he's been involved. So he's had interaction with Daniel. But moving forward, here's what Joe Judge has to do in this offense is do what they do well. The whole reason you have a bye week is for coaches to do some self-evaluation, right? 1 week that they don't have to prepare. So you lump in what are your good plays, you lump in what are your bad plays, you throw out all the plays that ain't working. You look at your blocking schemes. What blocking schemes work? What blocking schemes don't work? Okay, we're keeping these because we ran the ball well against Washington's one of the best fronts in football. We were able to pass protect against Washington because we were able to do X, Y, and Z in the run game. Let's do more of that, right? Oh, when we go empty formation, our guys don't hold up. So what can we do to stay in manageable down and distance so we don't get in these situations, right? They've got it. That's where they have to be right now. I'm not so concerned with highlighting Daniel Jones. I want to keep Daniel, and this is what all coaches should do. Keep them from situations where they will be vulnerable to make mistakes, right? If he's an average quarterback that can play above average, build around that, because for everybody who wants a change, you better know what's on the horizon first before you say throw this guy out. And if you can get him again to play above average, then you're going to be okay. You're going to have a chance to win a lot of football games in the NFL, because there's a lot of above average play that put their teams in position for the playoffs. And if you get the talent right and you get the schematics right, then you'll see whether or not he is above that. But right now, I know at the very worst, he's an average quarterback who can make above average plays. Can you play to that? Can you build to that strength? That is the challenge of this Giant team moving forward. Now, they got a lot of picks coming up. I haven't heard a lot about quarterbacks coming out in this draft.
No, this is not a year. I don't think this is a year that you're using a high pick to take a quarterback. If you are, you're reaching. That's the bottom line.
And that's the last thing the Giants need to do at any position these days is reach.
I got to be honest with you, Carl. I'm not that keen on. I mean, there could potentially be some opportunities for trades for some quarterbacks that could be on the move. But again, they've got to fix this roster. They don't have an edge rusher. They've been passing on edge rushers and trying projects, and it ain't working. Mm-hmm. Their offensive line is not working. Okay. Yes, it looks like Andrew Thomas is going to be a really good player. Okay. And knock on wood, that keeps going. But, you know, Gates is a free agent. He's hurt. Lemieux was a late pick. He's hurt. They got a bunch of Joes in there right now that are just plug guys. Hernandez has really struggled for 4 years, and Solder has been a great guy and a very good player over his career, but it looks like he's kind of on his last legs. And the fact that Parrott is not beating him out convincingly is also a concern.
Yeah.
I don't want to be using draft picks on a quarterback, and then you're going to bring a veteran quarterback in there, and guess what? He's going to be dealing with the same stuff.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. Before someone says, well, Russell Wilson's going to be available. Well, Russell Wilson's probably saying, I got a bad line here. Why do I want to go to another situation with another bad offensive line? But it's just proof that, you know, teams with bad offensive lines figure it out. They find the things that work, and they try to stay away from things that don't work. And that's what they've done in Seattle for years. I would think Russell Wilson would want to go somewhere where there's a better offensive line configuration than what's here. But that's we'll deal with that after the season anyway. It's not even a consideration at this point. What can they do now? Again, find out what your guys do best and keep yourself in those situations. That is Joe Judge's mantra. It sounds simple. It sounds like football 101, but that is what they have to do at this point. Get your quarterback to play above average, keep him in good situations, and demand that he make good decisions with the football. But you just cannot have the feeling that this has been, you know, this game plan was, like I said, drawn up the night before the test. And it was just like, what feels good? And it looked such a grab bag group of plays. And it was, again, no disrespect to Todd Bowles and his defense. The Giants helped them, obliged them in everything they wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, and they got really, really good players. You can't make it easy for them. And they just did. They just did not present anything in terms of a challenge to this offense. It was like, let's see if we can hunt a big play here, hunt a big play there, not try to establish anything consistently. And this is a failure. That was a failure. But when we look at the change, it was necessary because the talent is better than the rankings across all categories. Your job as coaches, and it starts with the head coach, is to make sure that you can put those players in position to have success on a consistent basis. So if you're an offensive coordinator, your job is to present a plan that will make sure that your best players are always involved in your game plan. They are a focal point. If you're a head coach, you better be demanding that, because when the general manager, whatever you feel about him, can go out and get you players that can help your quarterback and can help your offense, and you can't figure out how to use them, that's not on him, right? And then these players who are making money have got to hear, oh, they're making so much money, they can't even produce. Their numbers are down. We overpaid for X, Y, and Z. Not necessarily. You just didn't use them right. And now is the time. And like you said, you don't know what took so long, because they weren't getting better in the autonomy that coordinators have been given to do and try to fix things. And, you can admire Joe for that. And I don't know if there were any external influences into that. But you know what? Even if they were, here's what I'll say, because there have been a lot of theories floated out there about, why Jason Garrett was brought on the staff, why he was kept on the staff. Let's just say, for argument's sake, if Joe Judge has 99% of the guys that he's familiar with on his staff, why wouldn't he want an opposing point of view or a different point of view in the room? Maybe he says, you know what? I know these guys. Maybe someone I don't know can help me be a better head coach and can bring something that I may not be thinking of, or my guys not be seeing. He gave it a shot. It didn't work out. Let's just say that is the best case scenario, that hey, maybe the Giants say, hey, yeah, Jason Garrett's out there. He's had success in Dallas, blah, blah, blah. And he says, okay, I'll try him because I want a different point of view. Now, keep in mind, that's not uncommon with guys like Bill Belichick. They bring a lot of different voices in. They visit a lot of coaches. They learn a lot about football. Some of those guys don't stay with him long, but they learn from different coaches and different philosophies. So again, it's 26 games, and it's not 5 years, but those 26 games were 26 very crucial games in this coaching tenure and in the development of this quarterback. And that's something that they gotta get right.
All right. We're both foodie guys. I got to tell you about this real quick, Carl. We talked about the High Lawn, and we've talked about our buddy Sam Palladino. I'm supposed to go to the High Lawn on Friday. That's the game plan.
The amazing Sam Hazen.
Yeah, we've talked about, Nick and Sam's down there in Dallas, another favorite spot. I got to tell you, some of the best sushi. There are these young guys that have a truck. I don't know if you've heard about them. It's called Wisp Express, WISP Express. And you go on Instagram around noon, and they reveal where their truck is going to be. Somewhere in the Jersey City area.
Yeah.
Their sushi is off the charts. It's the best sushi I think I've ever had. And I've had some really good sushi in my life. And I can't say I'm like a sushi expert guy, but their sushi is so good that.
And when it's gone, it's gone, I'm assuming. It's not like they're there all day. So they create the sushi. When their supply is out, it's gone.
Yeah, they usually open at 4 and they close at 8:30. You call in the order, or you order online. You go pick it up. You figure out where the truck is. You gotta try it out if you're in the sushi.
I'm on it. WISP.
Wisp Express. Bunch of young guys.
Okay.
Their fried dumplings are so good because they're small and crispy, and they're not. You're gonna love this sushi.
All right.
Wisp Express,
I'm on it.
guys. Tip my cap to you. All right. So, Alex, I need you to put an edit in here. Carl, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
You want to wrap this up and then bang out a 15-minute preview of the Eagles so we don't have to do anything later in the week?
Let's go.
You want to do it? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that wraps it up. Wisp Express, don't miss it. Carl, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll be back later in the week for a preview of the Eagles, which is a big game on Sunday. But how do we always end this thing?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
You tell a friend to tell a friend, and so on and so on. Tell a friend. You've been listening and watching, and check us out later in the week for another edition of Believe in Giants with Carl Banks and yours truly, Bob Papa.